I'm quite low already.
These are class range to lake. Was an item. That was very, it was kind of like a paragraph. We had an but we finished better that day, haven't they?
Yes, of course, so John, hopefully John can.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Ready to start, and we have gone live already. So welcome to the Finance Governors meeting tonight. Do we have any apologies for absence?
We have apologies, Chair, from Councillor Richard.
So we need to accept his apologies.
I propose to accept them.
Those in favour? Thank you.
That is unanimous, Chair.
Do we have any declarations of interest? Colin?
Probably not, but the first tri bike that was purchased, as I was at the time president of the golf club, and our charity pot funded it.
Thank you.
On that note as well, I'll declare an interest because a organisation I belong to has also given funding to the Troy Shore.
Okay, but neither of those in any way are pecuniary interest, are they? Okay, thank you. Any other declarations of interest? Minutes of the last meeting. I take everybody's had a chance to read them. Does anybody wish to raise any issues with regarding Councillor?
Thanks, Chair. I asked a question at the last meeting about solar panels, which the result of which showed how valuable they are to us, both from an ecological point of view and financially. But there was no data available on the beach office, and I just wondered if there was a reason for that, or if that information could be made available at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There is a reason for that, Councillor Lambert, in so much as we are still undergoing some issues with the electricity supplier, who's unable to give us that data as it stands at the moment. But we are forever hopeful that they will sort out the metering and all the rest of it and be able to come back to us. But we haven't, we've put provisions in, but we haven't got the data to go with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you have your other response?
Thank you.
Anybody else got any issues they'd like to raise with the minutes? Can we have a proposal to accept the minutes, please? Okay. And a second, Howard, all those in favour, please?
That's unanimous, Chair.
And moving on now to councillor questions and statements. Do we have any councillor questions? Okay.
It's just a question of having sat and watched the big deck chair on the seafront. It's continually being used by people, and I wonder if we could consider some form of secure donation box for the Mayor's Fund. You know, because if only 1 in 5 puts a pound in, when you consider all the day, you know, most of the day people are sat there taking pictures, and a donation box is the easiest way. Whether we could discuss that and perhaps ask the officers to do something.
Thanks, Anthony. Do you have a view on that?
It certainly seems like an idea which can be considered, Chair. We can ask our beach staff whether they feel it's feasible, if there's a way of having something secure that money could be collected on a daily basis. I can't give an answer, obviously definitely yes or no, but it's something which we will ask the question on.
Yeah.
Good idea. Well done.
Okay, can I leave that with you then to chase that? Thank you. This is my good idea.
I'm just aware that some people don't carry cash with them, or not much. Is there any way of having this as a swipe card? Rather like, you know, parking. I'm serious though, a lot of people use the card here all the time. I've got the same £20 note in my hip pocket for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't touched any coins or carrots at all. Well, actually,
Don't go for it.
2 weeks.
can I excuse being government? But seriously, if it can be done completely on the card as well, that would be nice and more secure too.
Okay, thank you. Right, Alex.
Sorry, Chair, not to bring it to a discussion with concerns, the question, but you're right, and it just takes a QR code or a barcode. You can scan it on your phone and it sends you to a payment site that you just fill out your details on. It's a very, very simple thing. I think that's probably a better way of doing it than cash there, perhaps, because it's not secure and does get taken.
That's probably fair enough, really, because it's likely to be families doing this, isn't it? And it's likely that families would be having a phone.
Yeah.
Okay, any further questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Now moving on to public question time. Do we have any members of the public which can ask a question? Doesn't look like it. Okay, thank you. So moving on to grant applications. We have one application tonight, something with that age. So would you like to come and let us know what your plan is? Thank you.
Use a mic or
If you wish, yes.
how does it work?
Just press it and press the button and away you go.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So my name is Keith Johnson. I'm a trustee of Cycling Age Weymouth, and I've been asked to come along and just clarify our application. We were encouraged to apply by Councillor Matt Bell. So most of you, I think, hopefully will know that Cycling Age has been going since September 2019, and we offer rides mainly to elderly people from care homes, but also general public can meet us in a car park and we take them out for a ride along the seafront along Rodwell Trail. I think you're familiar with seeing the bike around. So we've been running now we're coming up 4 years in September, and what we are seeking is funding to keep the bikes up and running. So they are motor assisted. You've got 2 passengers up to 80 kilos each, 160 kilos as a payload. You've got the cyclist behind. So the whole thing, obviously, considerable weight. Fortunately, most of it is flat, but obviously we're relying on the motor to get up in small ramps and areas around the town. Batteries as well are very expensive, and we currently run the bikes with 2 batteries. We have a battery we're using, we have a spare battery with us, and that then needs recharging. So for the rides to run as well. So we're wanting to increase our usage of the bike, enjoy fresh air and the sights that Weymouth has to offer rather than being stuck in a cab.
You turn the mic off. Thank you very much. I've seen your trikes out in the back, and they've usually got smiling people sat in the front, so it looks tremendous. Anybody got any questions you would like to ask? Councillor.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I just want to ask, it's actually 16 in the thing about how else are you funding this? Grants from other organisations which are mentioned, but not the amounts. And it doesn't mention the date either. So over this year, for example, 2023, can you tell me how much you've raised from other sources?
So the care homes are very generous. They give us roughly about £5 a ride. It's not it's a complete charity run, so it's all volunteers. There's no demand of payment, but we get voluntary donations. We get the general public stopping us and giving us money as we're going, literally as we're going past. So we're constantly, obviously, making sure that we're up and feasible to carry on going. So we have got funds that you'll have seen from our application. We have got funds that we've allocated so that we can keep going for the next 2 years at least. So we obviously have to pay for insurance and maintenance costs. So that's what we're always seeking for sort of general donations from. We haven't applied in Weymouth, we haven't applied to any funds. We've got a branch running in Dorchester. So there's 2 bikes that are currently in Dorchester. Dorchester is purchasing its own bike, and that's basically being funded. And we've done applications to Dorchester Town Council and also lottery as well.
Anybody else want any further questions?
Hi, thanks for coming. I very much enjoy the triathlons. I see them running around. However, this does look a lot like running costs to me. And our policy is we don't fund running costs, which is why I'm slightly sceptical about it. For example, things like sort of maintenance on the bikes, I would consider just to be a annual running cost of your organisation. And I also believe that this council provides you with free garaging, or as some arrangement that you have storage provided by us, which I'm very happy about. But I just wondered if there is other sources of income that would be more appropriate, or perhaps even get a barcode, such as Councillor Furman suggested really this evening, so people can make more donations as they see you. Might be a way to raise some more sort of revenue for everyday costs for your organisation, rather than coming for grants.
Yeah, so in terms of the running costs, we cover the running costs in terms of insurance, and there aren't, at the moment, we don't have any costs for storage, because of obviously the council very generously giving us the use of the store on the end of the toilet block. But this is, so the original bike, which was donated by the golf club, was mentioned by Colin Huckle, that obviously now is coming up 4 years old. So that's got a motor in the rear hub, rear wheel. So that will be now it's actually done 8,000 kilometres, 5,000 miles of service. So that is going to be due an upgrade. The batteries, as I say, we're trying to purchase additional batteries so we can run the service throughout the day. We're available every day of the week. So that will be an extension to what we're currently doing. At the moment, we are able to carry on. We've got the funds to carry on, so all of our costs, it's more looking to actually where we are in the future in terms of making sure that this project carries on. We don't want to be in a position where we can't deliver the service. So we have more and more volunteers coming on each week. We've got 40 volunteers in Weymouth. Of those 40, about 20 are regularly involved in delivering rides. So there's a lot of sustainability in that, in terms of we've built up the volunteer base, we've built up the number of bikes we've got. So we're not looking at running costs, we're looking actually at something additional, and that is the batteries and an upgrade of motors. The equipment, the bike equipment, in terms of servicing the bikes, obviously having a bike stand, so we can actually, there's a tri-shore, so there's a lot of weight, we're trying to lift the bike off the ground so we can get to the brakes and adjust those and replace pads and things like that.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Kenny. Appreciate it. Just a question, Ian, in terms of officers and the recommendation, were they happy that this was filling the criteria that we set out in reference to Councillor Wakeling's capital and ongoing costs?
I think the answer to that, Councillor, is if the equipment being bought is going to last for more than 1 year, then we wouldn't necessarily class that as ongoing day-to-day running costs. The motor, for example, which if it's upgraded to last for another 4 years, then that in my mind would be a capital cost, which is not day-to-day running.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, anybody else got any questions they'd like to ask?
I'll move that we accept the.
Okay, so proposed by David Harris. Second by Councillor. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. And you have your money, and thank you very much for coming on this evening. What you and your volunteers do is very much appreciated by the town. And we will see you out and about. It's obvious how beneficial what you're doing is. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much indeed. That's great, thanks. And I'll probably leave and then you get on with your meeting.
Unless you want to become a councillor.
I'm quite busy doing the charity. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Nice to see you.
yeah, you too.
Thanks.
Moving on.
Thank you, Chair. So, members of this committee will be aware that we are required to bring at least a budget monitoring report on a quarterly basis. We expand this so that we have additional information for members to have a look at. Quarter one budget monitoring is always quite problematic in so much as we're only a third of the way through the year, and making any meaningful projections of where we'll be come March is very difficult. So you'll see that most of the projections are actually managers have indicated that they will spend the budgets by the year end, which is normal practice at this time of the year. What is useful by bringing this report to members' attention now is it gives councillors an opportunity just to get familiar again with the budgets which were approved back in January. It also gives us the opportunity to raise any issues which were unforeseen, which needs to be brought to members' attention. And I'm pleased to say that we haven't got any of those as yet. And we just highlight some things which happened in the first year, like the vacant posts, which are one-off savings for the year, which is why we're showing an underspend at this sort of time of the year. So the majority of the projected underspend is based around salary savings for posts which are being filled or have been filled in the last few weeks. So because of that, I don't think there'll be too many issues to raise with members now. So we would ask that the finance report be recommended to full council for their consideration. But what is important for this meeting is to consider the budget working group, which we appoint from members of this committee on a yearly basis. When the summer finishes, we will be getting into the budget preparation work, and those members of that working group will come into their own, and we'll have the same process we do in previous years, where we have the members meeting with managers and go into some quite detail of how we do the budget preparation. And there's an additional recommendation this year, because members will be aware we do receive still in respect of development, and there is a balance on that reserve. And it's felt that it's probably now appropriate to appoint members to that still working group to consider what that could be used for, what projects it could fund. And I would suggest that that membership isn't made up just of this committee, but to the wider members who have an interest. Councillor Hope might have a view, but a lot of the projects might have an impact on service delivery. So it could be that members from the services committee might have an interest in that working group. And I know, Chair, that Councillor Norton's already, although he's not here tonight, has indicated that he would be interested in sitting as well.
Yes. Thank you. Glad that it's all by and large going to plan. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? Yeah.
I just want to check that I'm reading this right. Is the catering group making a £44,000 loss?
Can I ask Councillor Dickinson which page you're looking at, please?
24.
24, thank you.
As it stands, Chair, the catering has made £5,000 profit for the first quarter in actual terms, and it's projecting to make a surplus of 37,900 come the end of the year, which is variance of the budget of £500, £600.
Can I just ask which cost centre we are always looking at?
For the future.
Peter, does that answer your question?
Not really. The way I'm looking at it, it's in red, which says 44,000, and it's in the under or over. So I'm reading red as being in the minus. Am I right in that?
Okay, so I would say welcome to the world of local government finance, which everything stands on its head, and negative figures are good. Or green figures are good. But negative figures in terms of the actual show that there's more income than expenditure. Income shown in brackets, so the bottom line is a bracket, then that dictates that it's more income than expenditure.
Okay, Councillor Hope.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Mine's slightly more of an observation, thanks really to Ian, that I think the end couple of sheets in this appendix are really, really useful, and I think it's something we've discussed previously as a committee, that it really draws our focus onto the areas that may need attention. So I'd just like to really thank Ian for producing those sort of summary sheets that shows where the variations are and what the reason is for that variation or what's being done to address it. And in particular, I'm really pleased to see that the advertising on the drones has gone higher than expected since the change of direction on how they were advertising, who's responsible. So that's really, really good to see. But that's my only commentary. It's really just an observation that I think those slides at the end are really useful to this committee, and I'm pleased to see them after the request.
Thank you for that observation, and I completely agree with that. It just really stops you sort of wading through the entire report, wondering what's important and what's not, because it's the other way. Next question. Lucy.
Thank you, Chair. I've just relates a bit to the question that Councillor Dickinson asked. Ian, you gave us some figures, some cheering figures, and in response to that, my questions are two. Where can we find those figures that you referred to? And secondly, is it possible to include some sort of commentary on these reports in the future to help us understand the colours and brackets and everything? Thank you.
The numbers which I was referring to relate to the total net expenditure on the page which relates to the catering. I appreciate, I know a number of members, people from this committee who've been looking at these reports for a number of years. You know, they're not the easiest to follow if you're not okay with what they're trying to show. So I think, you know, Councillor Hope has raised some observations that it does get a bit confusing. We are trying to make things as easy as possible, but by giving too much information or more information, sometimes that actually makes it even more confusing. So it could be that we just focus on the summary page and the variances with over 5,000 rather than providing all of the detail. But any way which we can make the information easier for members to understand and read, then I know through previous years we've tried to evolve this report to try and make it as easy or understandable as possible, but there is a lot of information, so any suggestions on what we can do, greatly received.
Okay, so anything further? Eugene? Nothing further. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Peter's 44,000 also appears and maybe this is where the confusion comes from, in the main body of the report in the agenda, where it's the total under income for the up to date, so no one area, but it's the total that we're down on income at this point in time, is what you're saying in the main body of the report. It's 44,000.
Yeah, so that's probably, I can understand where the confusion comes from, Chair. If you can change the word below to above, and that's policy, then we would be where we are. But, yeah, thank you, Councillor Harrison, Councillor Dickinson, if that's where you're referring to.
Thanks, Chair. I too have been looking at the variance table to which I refer. So the two biggest budget items, I think I'm correct in saying, are the staffing for obvious reasons, both the central operating costs and the parks and open spaces staffing. So there's been a lot of structural changes taking place, and clearly the ramifications for staffing will have been thought through as that went along. I'm aware, however, that I'm questioning whether or not the same rigour has been given to the staffing of the parks and open spaces. Now, it says that there is a review to be undertaken, which I'm pleased to hear about, which I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, will be undertaken by the new amenities manager. And there are two posts currently not filled. Are they going to be filled before the review, or are we going to leave them empty to see what comes out of the review?
Jay may correct me, Councillor Lambert, but in terms of that, there is no reason to appoint before the review has taken place. So we would expect that to be as part of what's going to be determined. So we're not asking for those posts to be, and we're not advertising for those posts. So it'll be after the review, or part of the review.
Was I correct in saying that review will be carried out by the amenities manager, and when do you hope that review will be completed by, or is that too soon to ask?
If I may, Chair, it's one of the key priorities for the new amenity manager. Obviously, they need some understanding of the council and the service before they can start that. So there will be a period of settling in, but it's the first substantive piece of work that we'll be asking them to do. And one of the things I'd like them to do is to talk to sort of key members to gather some views to feed into that process. So I'm hoping he'll be in touch quite quickly.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for the question. I think it was saying that this review is going to have to be done in time to inform the budget setting process. So, it's true. But it's, I mean, perhaps we don't have an option here. The review has to be done. It might not be a full review, and it might not be, you might call it a quick and dirty review, but it needs to come out with some answers which we can work with for next year. And then perhaps, you might have to go back and have another look to refine it and make it the best possible job, but we're going to need some answers for budget setting. Any other questions?
Thank you, Chair. My question is not really about this quarter, but it's more about the structure of the budget. Parks and Open Spaces has its own staffing account, which means we know how much staffing is going in that area. Is there a reason we don't have an operations staffing account, which would then split the central costs out, proportion what is spent on ops against what is sort of central, if that doesn't make sense, would it enable us to see more clearly how much the operations are costing us?
We could certainly do that. The reason why staff tend to be sort of kept centrally traditionally is because staff are being installed, they're multifunctional and they do work across a number of areas, but that we could split out, like the parts and open spaces, just have an operations staff and account, so that's split it out separately. We wouldn't be able to do the allocations then across all the various heads, because that would just be too time consuming, but we could split it down to an operations staff and account.
Idea for the future.
Just got one question myself. So we're carrying quite a lot of vacant posts, so the question really is, what impact has this had on the delivery of services by the council?
I will ask.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, the question is, we're carrying a lot of vacant posts, so that must have some impact on the services we're delivering. And the question is, has it had a noticeable impact? And so what impact does that have on the delivery of services, but also what impact does that have on the other staff?
Whilst with our slightly depleted staff team, we have been able to meet all of our core responsibilities and kept services going. It has had an impact on the sort of the value added nature of our work, particularly the time it's taken to recruit the new project officer, and particularly the issue we're having recruiting a new democratic officer. Whilst there's been no it hasn't affected the functionality of full council and committees, it's obviously had a significant impact on senior managers who are now having to hastily remember how to write minutes, format agendas and dispatch agendas. So it is impacting on the time, and the things that have fallen off have been the more value added side of things and some of the more developmental work. And we all look forward to being able to get back to that as soon as we can fill those vacancies in our recruitment.
Thank you for that, but it's just, sometimes you look at these underspends and you think, oh, it's great because it's an underspend, but there's an impact. Third question, Ken, next question.
It's regarding the budget working group. Are we going to choose now? I'd like to be considered if possible.
I was going to ask the volunteers when this conversation is over.
All right.
Right.
Yeah, if I could just come back on your previous point, Chair, as Chair of Services, I have to agree, I don't see any impact on service delivery. Those vacant posts, as well as holding up, are probably taking senior member staff time off of duties they should be doing, is also holding up on some of our more strategical direction and some of these reviews that you've previously done. So I would say if you're looking at could these posts be cut for a budget saving, I would say probably not, Chair.
Thank you.
With reference to item 2, Councillor Nickinson would like to carry on the working group.
Okay.
If that's with the committees. But I would just say that the Preston Beach Road, because of sickness, unfortunately, Emily Brown has been unable to keep it to our normal standard. So it does have an impact on us, unfortunately. But it's sickness rather than absence, recruitment.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, thank you. So do you want to take that recommendation now to guess what you want to do?
I've probably taken them in turn, Chair. That won't be too onerous.
So we take recommendation 1, which is council pleased to recommend a quarter-one financial report for the period ending 30th of June 2023 to full council. Can I have a proposal for that? Can I have a second there? So Ryan proposing, Peter seconding. All those in favour?
Unanimous.
Thank you. Any against? Obviously not. So we move on to the budget working group. The recommendation is that we form a group. As a new chair, I'm just assuming we will carry on as before. David Gray has been doing it for 4 years and has very much set the scene about this. So who would like to be on the budget working group? So, Ken,
Okay.
Graham.
Councillor Nickinson, would you like to carry on?
Yeah,
I'd like to nominate the chairman of this committee.
thank you.
I thought he nominated himself, we both thought he was great, but
I'm not sure enough.
So that gives us, anybody else? So you just repeat the name, so we're totally clear.
So we've got councillor, Watley, Lambert, Nicholson, Barrow, and
Hamilton.
Lucy. Sorry, the last one, you write it down.
From what I've been told, that is.
That's fine.
Suitable number to have on it.
Similar numbers to previous years.
Do we need to take a vote on this, or is that just?
It would make me feel happy if we did, just so that we've got formal nominations.
Okay.
That's fine.
Proposed by, seconded by Ryan. Always in favour, please.
Unanimous again, Chair?
Thank you. And now we move on to the SIL working group, which to my mind, I mean, this is something that we do need to do, and it's important because there is a lot of money building up, and it's not there to just sit there and build up, build up, and build up. It's there to be spent from benefit of the residents. So, would anybody like to be on the SIL working group?
can I? Because you've already said that we want people who are not on this committee to be on there as well, or have the option of being on it, it would seem unwise to ask for nominations at this meeting. Can I suggest you do an email on this? And then chair and vice chair between them agree who will be.
Very wise words.
I'll second that proposal.
Good. So, is everybody in favour of that, then? We put this out to an email to everybody. Okay.
So this came up at the pre-meet for this meeting. One of the observations is if we want any projects done this year, we need to sort of have them lined up for full council in September, which there are no more meetings between now and then. So effectively, this working group needs to go away and bring suggestions to full council in September. So it's a very short-lived, in its first instance anyway, quite short-lived to come back with some, because we've basically got to get the ball rolling in September if we want something to happen this winter. So it's a very short-lived and quite quick thing. But yeah, so by all means nominate people, but yeah, we really need to get moving if we want to do stuff this year.
And can I propose that the procedure normally is that SIL working party make a recommendation to us first, but in special circumstances we're in right now, they can make it to the next full council meeting in September as an exception.
Okay, so Ian, you will that, put an email out to everybody.
Yeah, I will certainly do that, Chair. I appreciate the timescales in September, which we can try and aim for. There's additional meetings in October and November if you need to take additional.
But when we put the email out, we can make it clear that we want anybody who was interested to get back to us by a certain date. And also explain the nature of the fact that, you know, what it is they will be doing and the urgency of the situation is just pointed out. The next question is, okay.
Sorry, what we're talking about SIL money, how much was accumulated? I was a bit worried when you said what's been accumulated.
You will just find it for you.
Yeah, it's one of those figures you should have read, Councillor, in your papers. And it is, we are holding 540,000, which you'll see up on screen, but committed from that is 229.
It's just a bit heads up.
210,000.
Right, thank you very much, Chair. Also don't want to prolong this. Why was the deadline set that we need things in by September? We want to see them done this year. Because we're talking quite a substantive amount of money, and whilst I trust pretty much all members of this council, I'm slightly concerned that we're going to point this to a small working group and it's going to be pushed through for haste of delivery rather than actually looking at the bigger picture and selecting the right projects. So I'm just wondering why that deadline of September was set for delivery of a project, because we're going to need costings and all sorts of things. I really think that's unachievable in that very short time, bearing in mind we're going into August, where most of the council takes a break. We've got staff that will be on leave for dependency and looking after children. Is it achievable? Are we rushing? And with that rush, do we risk actually making the wrong choices? I think I'd much rather the working group make a recommendation back to finance and governance so that we have time to discuss it and we actually do something worthwhile properly with all the right information rather than rush.
Yeah, I completely understand your concerns. And I think what's driven this is the realization of the need to do something about the toilets. So, and it's just a matter of, can we get that work identified and started reasonably soon, rather than letting things go too long? But I take your point. So I think we'll wait and see who comes back to us, and then have a think about how we actually do this, and also get a view from those people who wish to be involved as well, how they would like to go about doing the work as well.
Can I respond, Chair? So if officers and yourself have already got this in mind that potentially we need to spend this money on renovating our toilets, why don't we just have a paper box committee on that fact? Why are we appointing a working group and program on this?
Because that's just our view. More than before is other views. So we don't wish to be railroading anything through. If there's other, councillors have got other concerns and other things they wish to see money spent. But what I don't want to do either is have something just rolling on and on and on. So we're probably looking for a balance for how I feel about this and how you feel about this. But I would like those that wish to be involved to have a discussion about how they would like to see it go forward. Any other questions?
If Howard's motion now states that this is going to be delegated to this working group to report back to council in September, can I withdraw my seconding support, please? I couldn't support that.
Okay.
I will second Howard's proposal.
Thank you. So it's, I understand your reservations, and I don't see, this group is not going to get carte blanche just to do whatever it likes and to roll something through, because it's going to have to go through full council where it happens. And I would like to see something happen, ideally sort of in the spring, so we actually got something ready for next year.
Thank you, Chair. Just a caveat really, Chair, on all of this is, there will be resource dependent on a lot of these things, because with the greatest will, it depends on the size of the projects which are coming forward, will depend on whether the staff resource will be able to deliver what's being asked of it. So there will be that caveat. I think Clark is that.
And that's a caveat with everything we do.
Thanks, Chair. I'd just like to support Councillor Hope's concerns. I think we need a full informed discussion and not just a bonfire at next full council. And I'm also inspired by a recent example where you can actually launch an initiative like the day before a by-election, for example. So we could take it right to the wire, couldn't we? Got a little time. I'm thinking of Somerset here.
I'm afraid I don't know what you're referring to. I think we have discussed this fully. So can we just go ahead? We've got a proposal, form the still working group, ask them to start their work, and then have a discussion as to where it goes next. But what I don't want to do, let's just leave it at that. So we have a proposal. It's been proposed and seconded. So, and this is to actually just form the civil working group. So we're proposing to send out the email, ask for volunteers, and explain to them what it is they've been asked to do. And that's essentially it for now.
I think you're also asking them to bring something back to full council in September.
Yeah, but what they bring back might be, I'm afraid this can't be done in this timescale, therefore we want more time. So we're not asking them to come back with a proposal, we're asking them to come back with how they see proceeding. And that might be, we want more time and we want to follow the line of Councillor Hope just outlined. So that's it. So who else to vote in favour?
Okay. I've got to vote, haven't I?
Brilliant. 6, 4. Those against?
3.
And any abstentions?
2.
That's carried.
And I think it's notable it's not carried with flying. So with any reservations on this side, I noted to take that again. So moving on, corporate key performance indicators. Jane will update us on where we've got to.
Thank you, Chair. So this item has appeared on your agenda in error. Some of you who have been on the Finance and Governance Committee for some time will recall this has already been to Finance and Governance a couple of months ago. It is in the official minutes, and it was agreed following some comments for it to be passed on to full council. So the next stage for this will be on the next full council agenda. And my apologies for the error on this agenda, Chair.
Thank you. And moving on.
Sorry, so are we not debating item 9? Is that been pulled from the agenda? Okay. Can I just make one comment still, as it's here in the papers, because I had it forward. I'm still disappointed that we still have a serious lack of environmental KPIs. And that's James pointing at the screen, so. So, you know, again, it's something I mentioned at all levels. I mentioned it in the service plan. I keep sort of saying, I love our green, clean, or CE, as I now branded working group, to really focus on this, because we're now starting to invest some serious money and we have our plan. What we need to be showing is deliverable achievements against that plan. So I really want to see some environmental KPIs set against the corporate KPI set system.
I can understand those sentiments. Jane, could you update?
Yes, of course, Chair. So in the minutes for the Finance and Governance meeting held back in April, where this was discussed, members did resolve and in fact voted unanimously to include space for environmental KPIs to be agreed by the CE working group. And as such, I can use this opportunity to ask the CE working group to consider what corporate KPIs regarding environmental performance could be included, as is included in the report before you tonight and in the minutes of the meeting where this was discussed. There will be service-based KPIs coming out of each individual service plans. So these KPIs are corporate aid for the council as a whole, and I'd appreciate any feedback and input that members would like to send to me. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is that your question? So moving on to item 10, to standing orders.
Thank you, Chair. Members will recall several discussions regarding amending standing orders, and this has been, this area's work has been guided by the governance working group chaired by Councillor Wakeling. There are a number of different areas that the working group would like considered in a review of standing orders, and some of those are still being worked on. In order to facilitate the changes that the group would like to see, what I've done is look at just one key area in the interim pending a full review of standing orders. And that's something that I know is very important to a lot of councillors and also to the council as a whole. And that is the need to bring the work of the Climate, Environment and Ecological Working Group to a much higher prominence within the council, and to clearly demonstrate our commitment to the council's declared climate and ecological emergency. In order to facilitate this, members will see in the report a suggestion for an amendment to section 4 of the scheme of delegation, which concerns the Services Committee. And you'll see highlighted in red there the changes that are proposed to bring around the aspirations of the governance working group. That is namely to change the name of the committee to Environment and Amenities. This also aligns the work of that committee to our new amenity manager's role and the work that they will be carrying out, and bringing our operational teams together to form a single coherent amenities focus. You will also see in 4.2.1.1 a new point around environmental actions and projects to meet the council's declared climate and ecological emergency is something that will fall under the consideration and determination of the new Environmental and Amenities Committee. I'm happy to respond to any questions, Chair, but I am aware that Councillor Wakeling may wish to speak on this matter.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, I chaired this was a requested item for the governance working group. I chaired the meeting. It's quite a well-attended meeting for the governance working group, and we did discuss all sorts of stuff. But it was felt there are some longer-term changes that are still in the pipeline. But what we did feel was we had missed the opportunity to have the environment in our full committee structure. That working group is kind of fallen outside the current committee structure currently. And we felt the thing we wanted to make sort of the fast, quick impact with was to bring it into the services, formally bring it into the services committee, so it falls under that work stream. And as the town clerk has pointed out, as we now have an amenities manager who's responsible for all of the services, we felt that was a good opportunity to also bring the amenities title in there as well. So that's the rationale behind it. It was quite well discussed at the working group, and I could try and answer any questions that came out of that working group as well. Anyone has any?
Right.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just one very quick question before I go into the full point is, am I correct in thinking that these changes to standing orders aren't looking to take place till after the elections next year?
I think it's anticipated that if agreed, these will go to the next full council meeting for bringing in immediately.
Okay, that's slightly.
So we did discuss changes for next year, particularly the change in the number of councillors that will affect committee alignments. And longer term, we are looking at things at where scrutiny fits in, and what was the other thing that was on the project, where the project board is fitted into the committee structure.
And HR.
And all those. So there's a bigger piece of work, but will probably fall into the end of this year in preparation for the next year, when the new council will have a different makeup. But for this would be the idea. We'd recommend full council, and it would then become instantly part of the standing orders. So yes, as the chair of services, your committee will be renamed if this is adopted by full council.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. If I can just carry on then. So I'm just a little bit concerned that sort of those on tag will have already heard me say I'm concerned about putting in the word environment against one committee, because I really believe that the council needs to think about the environment at all levels and all decision. And I've seen this done in sort of my professional background, where somebody's appointed a title and it almost becomes their responsibility. And I'd hate for that solo mind to come to this council that, well, the environmental stuff's all the responsibility now of what was services. So, you know, I'd rather it be an open fact that this council considers the environment at every decision it makes and is responsibility of every committee. The other thing is, whilst I understand the change of the word amenities, services to amenities, because it fits with the new title of our staff that's coming in, I kind of feel like if you were to go out in the street and ask somebody, do you know what the Environment and Amenities Committee was? They'd say, well, environment, yes, they're responsible for the environment, but how many people actually know the word amenities? You know, that's just a serious question. But services, if you say, well, do you know what the Council Services Committee? Well, they're responsible for the services it delivers. So I'm just slightly uncomfortable about amenities, and I think services says what it does on the tin. Amenities, I think really hard about what that means. But as for the change of direction and responsibilities, I'm pleased though to see that there is that clear defiance that the environmental, that CE is reporting to services, and I think that enforces this more, but I am concerned about the name change more than anything.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Thank you, Chair. Members are free to determine whichever committee structure and names they wish. So if there's an alternative proposal, that's something you could discuss. Just to come back in on a point I really wanted to come back in on, and it has slipped my mind in the excitement of you coming to me quite so quickly, Chair. What was the other? Oh, the mainstreaming of environmental matters through the whole work of the council. We have declared the climate change emergency and ecological emergency, and it's imperative that that is mainstreamed through all our work. In order to respond to that and give environmental impacts a higher consideration, Chair, we have amended the template report, and now you will see in this report, you will see that there is a separate heading of climate and ecological emergency that has been pulled out of the table further below, which still includes environmental, ecological and climate change matters, but has a standing impact against it as detailed in the report. So environmental impacts are being pulled out of that table and put in as a separate heading to ensure that it gets the priority through all committee reports, regardless of whether they be full council or any of the committees. Thank you, Chair.
Graham.
Yeah, I do support this, and the town clerk has just said very much along the lines that I would have said, and I feel that this is a raising of the CEE, which I want to see, and certainly members of the CE working group want to see. I do agree with Councillor Hope that it needs to be right across, every aspect, and the town clerk has just indicated that is the case. This really came about because Councillor Ryan, you were very keen to make sure that the CE group, was responsible to a committee. I hold my hand up. I can't speak for the former chair, but I think we were a bit tardy in getting our act together there. But I don't think that the CEE group sits well under the title of services. And that was why I was very keen to see some change. Nothing is ever perfect, but it is showing that we are prioritising this work. And I don't feel that your concerns that it will get forgotten elsewhere will follow through, not least of all because the climate and ecological emergency is going to be mentioned twice in every report that comes to any committee. Thank you. So I wholeheartedly support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Go House.
Thank you very much. I totally agree with what Graham's just said. And would just add one point, because I would have said much of what he said, but the one point I'd like to know, I never knew what services ever did. Unless you were on it, we haven't a clue what services mean. I mean, what services did we grow stuff in gardens? Is that a service? I've never understood services as a committee. So this is a much clearer idea of what the committee is actually trying to do. So I totally support this change.
Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with everything that Councillor Hope has said. Because in 4.2.1.3, it says business services, not amenities. I think the name change is unnecessary. I think it should be the Environment and Services Committee. Because I do agree with Councillor Hope, everything about the environment is important to me. Because the environment that we live in, the state of the town centre is all part of the environment, and that is part of the services. The service that we offer, so I've got to disagree with Graham on this one, and Councillor Harris, and I can't support the change. I think it should be the Environment and Services Committee.
Okay, thank you. We seem to have a split opinion on this. Jane, do you want last word before we decide how to deal with it?
No, she doesn't.
Whilst I can see the pros and cons of both suggestions, it is a member decision, and I'm more than happy to present to full council whatever decision the Finance and Governance Committee, whilst it's still called the Finance and Governance Committee, decide to ask officers to take forward. Thank you, Chair.
So thank you for putting the ball firmly back in our court.
Member-led council.
Chair, can I propose that the recommendation here is not carried forward, however, is put forward for the new council at the start of next year. I don't think we need this change midway or partway through a term. And I was under the impression that all of these standing orders reviews that will go forward would be in preparation for the new council. So at the moment it's not broke, it doesn't need fixing. And I suppose that it's no action taken.
I guess it's a recommendation from the working group, so if I propose it as the chair of that group, you're welcome to vote against it, I guess is maybe one way forward. If I can say.
I think just a point of order, the recommendation, there isn't a recommendation to be proposed and seconded at this committee. I've just made a recommendation, Chair, which I'm entitled to under standing orders. I think there should have been a call for a seconder.
Yeah, great. So we have a proposer, so just so I'm sure I understand this properly, what we're proposing is that this is withdrawn and the job of taking it forward is given to the new council that will be elected.
Along with all the other recommendations that will be made by change.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? Peter, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? And do we have any abstentions? So it goes ahead as is.
Shall I make a recommendation?
That's that would be excellent. We've got to that point now. Okay, so we decided not to delay it until the start of the new council. So over to you, Nick.
In which case, Chair, can I recommend that we recommend it to full council as per the papers?
I'll second that.
Seconded. Those in favour?
But sorry, could I just clarify something?
Yes.
Clarify something. It was suggested that various amendments are going to be made, which won't be agreed until the new council is formed, which is a bit of a problem because they need to, when they first meet, decide who's going to go on which committees.
So Councillor Huckle, the intention is we will do some changes at the end of our term, which will give them a working set of committees to start with. It's entirely their gift to change them, as it is our gift to change them at any time.
Yeah,
so they may well at their first meeting straight after the election go, no, let's rewrite it. That's their prerogative. But I feel it's only fair that we at least leave them with a workable set of standing orders, particularly with regards to councillor numbers and some of the learnings we've had of 5 years where we've gone, actually, this didn't quite work out for us. So they may well completely rewrite it in their first meeting. That is up to them, but
that's fine. I thought that was the plan, to leave them in, to present them to them to start with.
So yeah, this is an interim change for the current state of the standing orders as we've discussed, but there will be a change coming forward towards the end of this year, which will set the standing orders in a suitable state for the next term with a different number of seats.
Just for my clarity, the fact that the number of councillors is changing means that we've got to do something.
Yes, at the moment, the standing orders state there must be 14 on services, there must be 12 on this committee, etc. But when you reduce the numbers down, of course, we have to readjust those. And as you've noticed, we've noticed things like, at the moment, CE is not in our standing orders, the project working group's not properly under a committee structure. So we want to correct those things as well, but it's entirely the gift of the new council. If they so choose to adjust it when they're elected, that is theirs to do. But we want to leave them, at the moment, we'd be leaving them without us for too many seats. So we're going to make sure at least, if they are all new councils, whatever we're doing, at least they'll have a structure that will work for the first few months when they get elected.
There was talk of the Environment and Services Committees instead of amenities. Is that not been proposed or?
Not yet, no. That was a proposal from that.
Yeah, okay.
Was at the moment, the proposal to delay it was not passed. So, I mean, Jane, you just confirm where we are now.
So where you are now, Chair, is right back at the beginning. The proposal to defer was defeated, so you are now faced with going back to the recommendation in front of you and seeing what is proposed. I think I'm picking up that a change to the name isn't being proposed. So you are now back to agreeing exactly what it is you want implemented.
Seconded by David, if they wanted to propose an amendment.
No, because point of order, Chair, you asked for a proposal, then you asked for a seconder, and then you moved to the vote. What you should have done, with respect, is taken a proposer, seconder, and then opened it to debate.
I stand corrected.
With respect, Chair.
So, where do we want to go now?
Shall we go for a vote? Go for a vote.
Okay.
No, because you have not opened it up to debate yet.
The question, I said question, shall we go for a vote?
It is proposed to second. Does anyone wish to put their hand up?
I wish to make an amendment that we put the Services and Environment Committee.
Not environmental services.
Services and Environment.
Okay, do you have a second?
Maybe, I don't know.
Second.
Do we wish to debate this or go straight to a vote?
I just oppose that as the wrong way round. What was first measured, because the environment is getting more and more important. That's the thing we should be pressing. We understand services are in there, we know that. But when anybody looks at this, they're not familiar with it, environment is the first word, and that's the important one. So,
Can I come back on that, Chair? Really, must we debate the definition of words? Because if you take environment, are you talking in Councillor Dickinson's estimation, which was environment as in town and those places, or do we take it as environment as in the ecological and climate definition? I think we're just getting bogged down in words. I've made a suggestion, services and environment. I'd like it seconded and voted, please.
You have it seconded?
Yeah, thank you, Peter.
So, would you just restate your amendment so we have total clarity?
Yeah. So it'll be the Services and Environment Committee.
So it's simply just changing the wording on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else want anything to say? Those in favour?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Those against? Those against?
2.
Any abstentions?
That is carried, Chair.
Congratulations.
That becomes a substantive.
Right.
Quite out of the woods yet.
Yeah, correct. So, Jane, will you just read out what it is we're about to debate on?
So, Chair, if I can direct you to the background information section of the report that I'm hoping Ian will be able to pop up on the screen. So where it says in red, environment and amenities, that will now read services and amenities. Services and, environment, sorry. Then if you scroll down a little bit, everywhere where I have written E and A in red, that will now read S and E. Everything else stays the same.
Oh.
Are we all totally clear?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Because I wasn't for a while. As Councillor Furman pointed out. So those in favour?
Sorry, Chair, point of order, proposed from seconder.
Was that a more, was it?
That was on the amendment. That was on the amendment. You need to know. how
Now
it's
it's
proposed and
found if it needs proposed and seconded.
I proposed it, David seconded it.
No, that's been amended.
Yeah, but another substantive now, it's changed.
Yeah, only proposed and amended.
Okay. Do we have a proposer for this?
Jane's looking away. She's discussing.
There you go.
Right, seconder. Who's proposed in favour? 8. Those against? Those abstaining?
That is carried. I wonder if we might need a second day for the next full council meeting.
I was promised that this would be a short meeting after the other one on 10 o'clock.
Your second mistake.
It was, wasn't it? Okay, so moving on.
Nearly finished, huh?
Taking my paperwork. Item 11, information items.
Very briefly, Chair, on item 11, actions from previous meetings. There's been one there that's been open for a year. I'm wondering if the town clerk could give us any update.
Which one?
Second one, there's a draft agreement with DC regarding the transfer of Station Gateway and Heritage Railway interpretation laws.
Thank you, Chair. The update I can give you is exactly the same as every other update I've given you on this matter, in that it is still with South West Railways, with whom Dorset Council are speaking regarding the transfer of assets on their land, as Dorset Council are unable to transfer assets on anybody else's land without the landowner's agreement, and we're still waiting to hear from the railway about that.
They've been managing it for the last 12 months. Do they need us to do it? Maybe can we just say, you've missed the boat?
Jane?
Mr. Dragon.
If that was a direction given, then I can go back, have a final negotiation with them and inform them. Obviously, that's not a formal view of the council, it's not been voted on, but can inform them of the council's wish to resolve this one way or another.
Yeah, that seems fair enough. Because you can't just stay on forever. Okay, moving on. The forward plan.
Thank you, Chair. This is just the ongoing forward plan, which it's not a definitive list. It will be continually amended as things come forward, but this is the plan as it is now, Chair.
Can I suggest the forward plan is amended to read services and environment?
It's not been adopted by full council yet.
We have a lot of lawyers in this.
Are we ready to go to amendment?
Members wish that those be noted, Chair, that's, move on as well.
So we now need to exclude the press and the public from the meeting in order to discuss some confidential items. So can I have a proposal that we do that? Colin, second that. Lucy? Good.
Can I just ask that the officers could explain to the public record why this is a confidential item, just for clarity, so people getting cut off on the internet now understand why we are doing this.
Certainly, so the items to be considered are of a sensitive nature, which contain confidential information or commercially sensitive information. And because of that reason, we need to do that in confidential session.
Okay, thank you. That explains why we're doing this. Thank you.
So we need
Still the choice of the council.
Vote for it. Vote for us.
We've had a proposal in a second, the chair, if we can just vote to.
Those in favour?
That is 10.
Those against?
One.
And just for clarification, Ian, it is the council's choice. It doesn't have to.
We just chose.
Any abstentions? Okay, that's carried.
Emily?